My name is Franco Terrazzano. I'm with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and I'm here on behalf of Canadian taxpayers who do not support the culture of wasteful spending, never-ending deficits, and tax hikes. The culture of wasteful spending does not help Canadians. The more money the government spends on fancy trips, the less money we have to hire more nurses. The more pay raises the government gives itself, the less money parents have to put their kids in hockey. The higher the debt, the higher the interest charges, and the more likely that taxes will rise. Unfortunately, the budget update continues this culture of wasteful spending. It shows that the government is already on track to blow through its budget by $20 billion. That's astonishing when we're only halfway through the budget year. But here's the most amazing part. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland called her budget update prudent. The numbers suggest otherwise. Freeland said the government would spend $452 billion in April's budget. During the budget update, Freeland now says that the government will spend $472 billion. In 7 months, Freeland is somehow managing to spend $20 billion over budget. And the April budget was not austerity, not even close. Freeland's April budget contained $90 billion in extra spending compared to the pre-pandemic. And the government was already spending all-time highs before the pandemic, even after accounting for inflation and population differences. So Freeland is outspending that big spending budget by $20 billion. For context, $20 billion is equal to a 2-point reduction in the sales tax. So Ms. Freeland could reduce the sales tax from 5% to 3% without increasing the deficit. Freeland only needs to keep spending equal to her April budget. And Canadians need relief. But Canadians are paying too much tax because the government wastes too much money. 72% of Canadians say they pay too much tax, according to a recent Ipsos poll. Many other countries are cutting taxes. Ottawa is hiking gas taxes, hiking payroll taxes, hiking alcohol taxes. And the government is imposing a second carbon tax next year through fuel regulations. The budget update is pinky promising a balanced budget in 2027, but taxpayers should be skeptical. For starters, that's after the next election. But the Parliamentary Budget Officer's numbers paint a less rosy picture. The PBO releases budget projections only a few weeks before the budget update. It shows that Freeland is highballing revenue and lowballing interest charges. The PBO projected revenue in 2027 to be $11.1 billion lower and interest charges $2.8 billion higher. Bottom line, the deficit in 2027 would be $9.4 billion using the PBO's revenue and interest numbers. This is a larger deficit than the downside scenario in the budget update. More government borrowing means more tax dollars lost to the bond fund managers. The budget update estimates interest charges will cost taxpayers $252 billion through 2027. That's a cost of $6,300 for every Canadian. Freeland claims the budget update is prudent, but the budget update is giving the CBC another $42 million. That's after the CBC handed out $51 million in bonuses and raises during the pandemic. The government just spent $1.3 million on a week-long trip for the Governor-General and her entourage, and $6,000 per night for a single hotel room during the Queen's funeral. 300,000 government bureaucrats got a raise while their neighbors lost pay during lockdowns. Fortunately, there is some good news. The government could balance the budget next year by bringing spending back to the all-time high levels of pre-pandemic, even adjusted upward for inflation and population growth. Instead of spending $20 billion over budget, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation recommends balancing the books with modest spending restraint. The government could provide much-needed tax relief and stop piling debt onto the backs of Canadians' kids and grandkids. It would only take modest spending restraint. Thank you.